All right, welcome one, welcome all to this CV Pod edition. Today we're sitting down with Bicom Systems, representatives from Bicom Systems, and we're going to talk about the trade show experience. Before we jump in, my name is Brady Hicks. I'm an editor with Channel Vision Magazine. And today joining us, we have Marketing Communications Team Lead, Laura Kyle. How you doing today, Laura?
I'm good, Brady. How are you?
I'm doing really well. I'm excited to be here with you guys here today. We also have marketing manager Lorena Rico. What's going on, Lorena?
Hi, all good in this side.
All right, cool. And we also have marketing associate Chelsey Armstrong joining us. What's going on, Chelsey?
You're looking at it. I mean, you're hearing it.
Very cool. Well, we're here, as I mentioned, to talk about the trade show experience, especially post-pandemic. But before we kind of jump in, Laura, I was hoping you could maybe talk a little bit about Bicom Systems for those who aren't so familiar.
Yeah, definitely. So we are a software manufacturer company that works strictly with resellers in the telecommunications industry. We celebrated our 15th year anniversary a few years ago. So we're slowly approaching our 20th anniversary. We're in between around 17, 18 years now. And we're doing great things. We have a beautiful product suite stemming from serverware to PBXware to our unified communications platforms, Glocom, Glocom Go, Glocom Meeting, which is our desktop and our mobile apps for unified communication. And then also what everyone is loving, our virtual meeting conference system that launched during the perfect time during the pandemic when everyone was working from home. So we're really excited to be working with Channel Vision again this year and share our experience with attending trade shows because we just got back from Enterprise Connect. So we have a lot to unpack.
No, sure. And I was at Enterprise Connect as well. And it was really cool to just kind of see everybody just, shedding everything and just kind of getting back out there like we used to for so many years. Let me ask you girls, how was it being at a live event trade show so quickly after the pandemic?
Just actually kind of continuing to adjust your comment just now, Brady. For me, it was like a lot. It was a lot of uncertainty on one end and wondering if we were like being too bold to do this. We still had to we flawed from Canada there, so we were wondering we shouldn't get like a positive test to go back home. So that was like a little uncertainty, but at the same time, I share with you the excitement. Right, it was good to finally travel again and be able to reconnect with people and getting that feeling that finally the world seems to be moving forward from this bump.
And just to follow up with Lorena, this was my first trade show. So again, nerves were definitely there. Especially during the days leading up to the event. Obviously, the outcome and all the work and the planning that was put in was definitely my main cause of the nerves, but also traveling and being around new people definitely made me a little more nervous. But being one of the people organizing definitely helped me feel more comfortable just because I knew what to expect in our booth. So that kind of was a comforting fact.
It was great for me. I'm just kidding. I literally am sharing the same experience with both the girls just leading up to the show, the preparation, both on the physical and the virtual side, because you kind of had to be in two places at once. Essentially you could have someone visiting you live in person, but then also trying to connect with you on the app and trying to set up a virtual meeting. So a lot of logistics went into it that had me overthinking a lot. However, once we were there and then got through overcame some of the bumps, definitely our second, third, and fourth day, it was just riding a bike, back to business, seeing old friends, meeting new friends, going to different networking events. It overall was a good experience.
It definitely was a little strange to kind of be back out there after a little bit of time. I know that for a lot of people kind of working from home, online working, it's become like an anthem kind of in a way, almost across the world. Do you think the live trade shows are still relevant and, will they continue to be?
Oh, I think 100% that the live events will continue to happen. And I feel like they should continue to happen. as you know, like talking through emails and like through instant messaging and stuff, it's way different than chatting with someone in person. In person, you can get a feel of like their personality and you can make better connections and stuff. So I definitely feel like in-person events are still relevant, should always be relevant and continue to happen.
Yeah, and I think that because we've been in this work from home mode for a while now, we've realized how important that physical in-person connection is, right? So I think in my experience now that we still do some work from home here at Bicom Systems, these kind of trips and networking experiences are like escapes from this routine of working from home and this online all the time working mode, right? For us also, like it's on these trade shows or in these events where we get to connect even with our work colleagues that are in other offices, like in US or even in Bosnia and all that. So for us, it's double important to just not only connect with customers and vendors, etc., but also with our own team.
Okay, very interesting. And I know, like from my perspective at Enterprise Connect, just the theme of the entire show and everything, kind of remote work and all that kind of jazz. It was interesting in light of the pandemic and that kind of being the first show back for a lot of people. Let me ask each of you, what are your main takeaways from the Enterprise Connect show this year?
I would say my main takeaway from the show was essentially like seeing the shift to remote working solutions in person. So obviously we've all been working from home. That's certainly not new. But it was interesting to see it like in person and see all the different hardware and software manufacturers showcasing like their products and solutions. Because obviously we're familiar with like our own solution, of course, and then also some of like the larger companies. But it was interesting just to see all the different ones on the show floor. One in particular that stood out to me was Poly. They had a really cool setup. While we were speaking to one of their engineers, we actually jumped on a meeting with his coworkers who were based in Chicago. The camera quality was literally amazing, like so clear. I could hear the ladies perfectly. They could hear me perfectly. And we literally were on such a busy trade show floor that it like, I would say mind blowing. I know that sounds very nerdy, but it was really cool to see like in person, just like a quick switch. So that was probably my like main takeaway.
And just to like add on to Laura's, like that was probably one of my main takeaways too, just the shift from like working from home or hybrid working during the pandemic. It's obviously not going anywhere and it will continue to be the topic of conversation for quite some time. It was nice to see though that most of the companies were promoting a hybrid working method or hybrid working atmosphere because obviously it was a long 2 years going from working from home to hybrid, working from home to hybrid. So hearing only hybrid working or majority hybrid working, it was nice because I prefer not to head back into the working from home only direction.
Oh, for sure. Any do's or don'ts that any of you observed when it comes to trade shows?
Oh, I could talk about this. I actually wrote a blog post on this. So I'll do one do and one don't. I would say my major do is to follow up. When you're at a trade show, like you're meeting so many new faces and also connecting with people who may have seen you at previous trade shows or other trade shows that go on during the season. And on top of that, you're collecting business cards, you're scanning people's QR codes. So ultimately, you're just making so many connections with people. But while you're making those connections, obviously following up with them can get lost. So I found it helpful that when you're in that moment talking to them, if you want to like send them an email or however you're connecting with them, whether that be a text or reaching out through like their particular landing page, I would start out your message with a subject line saying that you were at like the event, the name of the event, or even think outside the box. So say you had an inside joke with someone. For example, while we were at Enterprise Connect, we met someone from Chicago and we were talking about a common show on Netflix that was in Chicago. And that's actually how we reached out on LinkedIn together. And immediately I thought of that and I remembered our conversation perfectly. So really think outside the box when you follow up with someone, because you don't want your email to get lost in the shuffle. You definitely want to make a lasting impression. My don't would be, do not just staff your booth with anybody. You may think you need all the available bodies you can find. That's not the case at all. You need to have appropriate departments and employees who are not only knowledgeable on your products and your solutions, but also as your company as a whole. You don't know the type of person who's walking by your booth, what they want to know about you or your products or your company overall. So you really need to have those employees who know everything. For me, I work in marketing, so I found myself giving our elevator pitch to so many people while at Enterprise Connect this year. And if I wasn't able to do that on the fly and then hand them off to one of our account managers, most likely that person probably would have left the booth or shopped somewhere else, or really would have looked for someone who knew what they were talking about. So those would be my two major advices.
And I mean, what Laura said, wow, like big clap for that. That was very on the upscale part. I say in my case, like my forever do and don'ts are, I always try to go back to the basics, which is a lot of the things that people in the rush of organizing tend to forget, right? So my forever do is the swags. Again, as part of the marketing team, I always thinking about how to attract people. So I think swags is just a must, and it doesn't have to be either very expensive, and it doesn't have to be very creative. It just has to be enough that it's attractive, but also reflects a little bit of what your company's way of thinking is. In the side of the don'ts, again, very obvious, but it's the footwear, right? Because you go through so many dress codes and so many weathers with the trade show season and all that, that you just, you get used to some footwear and you forget what you're trying to do is just sell and interact and establish these very fruitful conversations. And believe me, it doesn't matter if you're wearing your heels or your shiny gala shoes. It's just not the footwear that is going to sell. It's just you and your networking speech.
Take everything I said, forget it, and just focus on proper footwear, because the blisters on my feet, well, thank you.
Well, I have to say, this has been some really practical advice for sure. As somebody who went from 40-degree weather down to 85-degree weather back to 30, I can appreciate a lot of this advice. Speaking of advice, what advice would you give to companies that are exhibiting for the first time at a trade show?
That's a good one. I guess for the very first time, and I'm trying to just, rush my little mouse in my head, is going back to basics, a checklist. Checklist is something that works for me, not even on my professional life, but also in my personal life. A checklist that covers everything you can think of, even from the booth needs to your team daily needs. And no thing that you can think of might be too small or basic or obvious to be in there. I find through my experience that people going to shows they need to know, or they need to feel they have all the information to know where to be, how to be there, when to be there. So the more details you can include for that in your checklist for covering all these little bits is the best advice that I would definitely give to a company that is exhibiting for the first time.
My little tidbit of advice is more of like a mindset. So you should definitely go into a trade show at any scale with being comfortable with the fact that things happen that are out of your control. So if you go to an event at any scale, thinking everything has to be perfect, no mistakes can happen, you're essentially setting yourself up for a stressful few days. So like if something minor happens, like an outlet won't work or like a stool's missing, no one is going to notice walking by a booth other than you. Like you're the only one that will notice those little things. So if you just like let those things build up and stress about it, you won't get the full experience. Like you won't be able to make new connections. Your mind will be elsewhere. People can pick up if you're not fully listening or fully attentive to the conversation. So just be comfortable with the fact that things are out of your control and just enjoy yourself and have fun.
Again, I think that's all really kind of great advice. Definitely makes for a dependable, positive experience at trade shows. Laura, let me ask you, if people want to kind of keep tabs with everything that Bicom Systems has going on, obviously, so there's the website, bicomsystems.com. Is there anywhere else where people can kind of keep track of all the great stuff that Bicom is doing?
Yeah, definitely. We have a very strong presence on social media. We are on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter, on LinkedIn, on TikTok as well. We've been posting a lot of video content lately. We have some videos of us at the show, work in progress at the booth, and then also like a recap of that. We also have a blog. You can always email us. We're always down to answer some emails, and you will see more of us soon. We're going to be definitely attending more events. We'll be at your event this November. We're very excited to go to your very first trade show. So you'll see us there as well.
Well, we're very excited for CVX as well, and I'm excited to see you guys at future events as well. So Laura, Lorena, Chelsey, thank you so much for the time today. It really meant a lot.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. It was fun.
It was a lot of fun and very informative as well. I learned a lot about Enterprise Connect and a lot of the other great events that are going on as well, and just good practical advice there. So thank you. And while people are online and they're checking out bicomsystems.com and the social media channels and everything else that Bicom is doing, don't forget to also visit channelvisionmag.com. On there on demand, you can check out all the great CV pods and the podcasts, obviously, the CVTV video interviews, webinars, lots of great content right there at your disposal. And I think that's going to do it for today. From Channel Vision Magazine, on behalf of Bicom Systems, I'm Brady Hicks. Have a great day.